Hi Club Presidents, Jennifer DeRoyne here. I want to share with you this month's President's message about membership. It's one of my favorite subjects for a couple of reasons. Number one, because it's so important to the longevity of our organization and to your club, but also because I know it's sometimes an area that is particularly challenging, and I really like working with clubs and helping them to problem solve and think about how they're going to grow their club and how they're going to help their club be vibrant and all of those things that go along with membership. So I want to separate this though into three different buckets. The first bucket being attraction. I do believe that this is specific to club by club and community by community. So what I'm talking about attraction is of course inviting those people in and getting them to their club. So the standard or most traditional method of one Rotarian inviting another Rotarian is always going to be the most effective. But certainly there are other things that we can do if your club needs some extra help brainstorming about other ways we can try to bring in interest and get people excited about raising their own hand to maybe belong to your club. So if that's you and you feel like you'd like to have a little bit of a discussion about something that's particular for your club or a strategy that's particular for your club, then I invite you to reach out to myself and Marie Baker, the membership chair for the district, and either of us will be happy to come along and talk with you about ideas that might make the most sense for your community and your club. So attraction, number one, invite by a member, but there are other things that we can be doing, and we'd love to visit with you about what those are. The second thing I want to talk about is what I call a value alignment conversation. So, sometimes in our quest to build members, we just accept everybody in, and the requirement is they have a pulse, they can write a check. And so what I'm asking you to do is maybe think about how we have an earnest conversation about their intent, why they're here. And then secondly, who we are and what we have to offer. So that's where I call that value alignment. This is what I want as a prospective member. This is what the club is. Oh, we're a good fit. Or I'm a prospective member and this is what I want. This is what the club is. We maybe don't fit. And then friction is created and this member goes out the back door. As you likely know, you've been in Rotary for a little while, and because you're in a position of leadership, you've heard us talk a little bit about retention. Retention is something that all clubs are working on right now. And I think it starts with just having an honest conversation about what is that person looking for, and being upfront with them about who we are as a club. So just to give you an example of that, typically what I would do during my president year is, this is something that really hadn't happened in our club. So I would meet with those prospective Rotarians usually 15 to 20 minutes before our club meeting started. Now obviously it doesn't have to be you. You wear a lot of hats. This was something that was really important to me, so it was a responsibility that I took on myself. I'm not advising that, but if it's you or whomever, take a few minutes to just sit down and ask them, what brings you to Rotary today? And then if their answer, if you feel it's primarily business, that's fine. I think that's why a lot of people find their way to Rotary. But my message would be, I would advise you to come to Rotary with a service club mindset first. If business happens as the byproduct of you coming in and doing service and building relationships with those in the club, that's really great. But I'd advise you to come in with that mindset. Do you think that that's going to work for you? And you can get a feel for if you think that's where they're at or not. If it's predominantly business, sometimes they might get discouraged and exit stage right, which leads me to point 3, which is retention. So I want to go back to what I was just talking about. We know that particularly younger professionals do join Rotary because they want to build up their network of contacts. And so I think as a club, you just have to think about, is that who we are? Is that who we want to be? And if the answer is yes, then where are you creating those opportunities? Are you making it okay to talk about business in your club? I'm not saying you turn it into a leads group, but I'm saying that maybe, for an example, a small way you can do it is sometimes I would celebrate with happy dollars doing business with another Rotarian. I would talk about my experience and how great they were, and I was just really happy that I could do business with that Rotarian. And I used my happy dollar time to do that. So as a club leader, I set the tone for that. at the leadership level, and I made it permissible for them to talk about that and to be something that would become the culture of the club. So just some things to think about. If that's what people are coming to you for, you just have to decide, is that who we are? Yes or no? And if that is who we are, how do we make that possible for people? If we want to go ahead and make it okay to talk about business in our club. So that's just really one small aspect. So really, first off, we have this value alignment conversation. Do we fit? Yes or no? And then I want to talk about bringing them in. So, I put it into two buckets. There's onboarding and there's orientation. And so orientation, to me, is that event that I think a lot of clubs have, where we sit down and we talk with them about Rotary was started in 1905 by Paul Harris and blah, blah, blah. And we talk about, our legacy service projects and the history and all of the things we do. And that stuff is really important. It's good information to have. But then step two of that is where most oftentimes, sometimes we do stumble. And it's in the onboarding process. And it's not that we don't have good intentions, but you need somebody to be in charge of being that nurturer in your club. So you're going to have people that are going to naturally be good at going out and getting new members in. But have we really identified, trained, and created a process around then what? Now they're here, how do we nurture them? Sometimes we'll have a red to blue badge checklist, and that works to some level. But thinking about how you can take that experience and go beyond, really helping them find a place to plug in, engaged, feel valued by the club, and feel of value to the club in a way that works for them. Now, I know that is easy to say and hard to do, because in some of our clubs we have 4 generations of Rotarians. We have traditionals, baby boomers, Gen X, and millennials. And I know that then becomes a little bit of a challenge trying to figure out, how do we create conduits and pockets and places for people to plug in. So that's really when you get that committee together and you brainstorm on different ways and ideas that you can do that. I'm just going to give you a few simple ideas. If your club does meet weekly, let's say it's Tuesday morning, Thursday lunch, whatever it is, you're always going to end up with a 5th meeting in the month, right? So maybe that meeting when you have that 5th Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, whatever it is, instead of having a traditional club breakfast or luncheon that day, maybe you have an after-hours event. An after-hours event is terminology that a lot of professionals will utilize and is synonymous with networking. And so that maybe is a way to help kind of fill up that bucket. Use that 5th meeting and turn it into an after-hours event at a Rotarian's place of business. And so now you've created an opportunity for people to connect. Another idea is, I'm stealing from McCall. It's one of my favorite ideas. It's when you take a group of new Rotarians. So let's say they've been in the club just a few months, and maybe you do this every 6 months. And so you try to capture all of the most recent Rotarians. But they host a dinner at a Rotarian's house. And they invite all of these new members and their spouses there. So there's a few great things that are going on there. Number one, it's very personal because it's at somebody's home. So you're cooking a meal, you're sitting down having a conversation, and they've invited their spouses or significant others to come along. And what's important there, of course, is now this other person that's so important in their life has been introduced into Rotary, and they've been exposed, so they have the opportunity to see what we do, to meet the other people involved, and to take some of that mystery and unknowns away, and they'll be more likely to support that Rotarian and hopefully also join them as they go along. The other really important component of that dinner is that they ask some questions. They say, hey, what do you think about Rotary so far? What questions do you have? What are some of the things we do that might be confusing to you? Tell me why that is. What recommendations would you have? I would put together that list of questions and I would send it out in advance and just say, I really want to get your feedback. It's really important to me. Here's some questions that I'd like to ask of you. When you come to dinner, let's just have an open dialogue about what it is. And really making it comfortable for them to be able to give you their honest feedback. And then, of course, as club leaders, now your job is to take that feedback and figure out how you're going to respond. And so, I would encourage you to just be open-minded about that. And sometimes that's our human nature, to be kind of quick to respond as to why we do that or defend, that tradition or whatever it is. But instead, just try to put on your listening hat and just really absorb what it is they're saying, and then think about how you're going to respond to that. And if you're not able to do that dinner, another great way to go about something very similar is just take 3 or 5 of your new members out for coffee or tea or lunch or breakfast, whatever it is, just you and them, and spend a few minutes with them and ask them those same questions, and make sure that it's a personal invite. Just say, Sally and Joe and Elizabeth, I really want to get your feedback on a particular subject. Do you have time to meet? So really taking the time to do that personal ask and bring them in. And then, of course, the question at the end of all of those, or either of those sessions, is whether you're doing this dinner or maybe this more shorter meeting, is how can I help you plug into Rotary? What's of interest to you? So sometimes when they first come in, we're really apt to try to throw them into a role that needs to be filled in the club. I would encourage you instead to say, there's different areas where you can engage in our club. One is in membership, helping to attract and retain our existing members. The other is, of course, in service projects. How do we serve our community? The other is in our foundation. How do we help maximize giving and grant utilization? And then the fourth is public image. How do we help be better storytellers, or how do we become, I should say, better storytellers, sharing the great work of what we do in Rotary? So if you think about those 4 areas, and of course then there's club administration, some other things that they could get plugged into, but think about what are those things in your club. Ask them what's exciting, then find a role for them instead of trying to plug them into maybe the need that you have at that moment. Let them find their way. So onboarding, end of the day, it is time consuming. It takes some time and energy. You have to think about, how can I help these people find their way in Rotary so that they stick around? But I promise you, if you do that, then you're going to, maybe not lose as many people at that back door. Your club is going to grow. Your members are going to be more excited, more engaged. They're going to want to do more projects. It's just going to be exponential in terms of the benefits. So spending some time this month to think about maybe what else you could be doing. If you haven't already thought of that, I encourage you to spend some time. And then keeping your fingers on that membership on a monthly basis. If you were at the Rotary Leadership Summit, you heard me talk about this. This is one area where you just can't afford to take your finger off of that pulse. You really need to be looking at it every month and saying, how are we doing? What adjustments do we need to make? Because waiting until you're kind of towards the end of the year, it generally is a little bit too late. So I'll just close with, again, you've got lots of resources here for you. Whether it's Marie Baker, who is just really phenomenal and ready to act and help you out, or if you want to give me a call and talk about some things you're thinking about, please do. This is an important topic, and I hope that you're thinking about it in the month of August and year-round. I want to thank you. We're in month 2 of being the inspiration to the members of the club. And I know you're working hard, and I have had an opportunity to visit with some of you, and I can't wait to see the rest of you. It's just been so much fun getting to know more about you and your clubs. I appreciate so much what you do. Thanks, and have a great day.